Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Kids normally have a safety net around them.
Worries about what's happening to some children during this pandemic.
We've always been there to help people out, and now we don't have those people to help out.
The plight of hotels trying to survive.
I don't think anything sounds much crazier than saying that you're going to run a marathon every day for 26 days.
One woman's mission, 26 marathons in 26 days to help a nonprofit continue to help.
I think we can backlog maybe over 1,000 kids have come through and learn with tools.
Front Yard Bikes, a nonprofit making a difference one bike at a time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Morrow. Much more on those top stories on this week's edition of SWI. But first, the U.S. this week surpassed 100,000 deaths from the coronavirus, now standing at 104,000 people. That is in 4 months.
And as of Friday morning, the death toll in Louisiana stood at 2,661 souls lost because of COVID-19.
At his latest media briefing this afternoon, Governor John Bel Edwards talked at length about the state's coronavirus testing plan and where we stand.
It's not just about getting the right number of tests, it's making sure you're testing in the right places. The state's comprehensive plan includes 4 goals that help us to know not only that we've ramped up testing, but we have done so in a way that reaches all communities.
Now let's check out some of the stories making headlines at the state capitol.
The Louisiana House on Tuesday backed a $30 billion-plus spending plan for the next year that uses federal coronavirus aid to keep programs and services afloat despite the pandemic. The package of budget bills approved in a quick afternoon of House votes heads to the Senate for debate with 1 week remaining in the regular legislative session. Senators don't expect to complete the work before the deadline. Instead, the legislature is expected to finish the budget in a special session that starts immediately after the regular session ends on Monday. Louisiana lawmakers are one step from removing most restrictions on which medical conditions are eligible for medical marijuana, allowing doctors to recommend the treatment for any patient they believe it would help. The Senate voted 28-6 Wednesday for the expansion proposal from Representative Larry Bagley of Stonewall, the Republican chairman of the House Health Committee. One final vote is required from the House, which overwhelmingly backed the measure earlier this month before the bill can reach the governor's desk. A proposal that paves the way for legalized sports betting in some Louisiana parishes is headed to Governor John Bel Edwards' desk. If the governor agrees to the measure as expected, voters in each of the state's 64 parishes will decide on November 3rd whether to authorize sports wagering in their parish. The House sent the bill by Senator Cameron Henry with a 72-23 vote Wednesday. The Senate already has agreed to the legislation in a 29-8 vote.
And now a look at other news making headlines around the state. As the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the state climbed to about 39,000, with an increase in people being tested, the number of people in the hospital with the new novel virus fell below 800 for the first time since late March. A falling hospitalization rate is one of the factors state officials use to decide how and when restrictions on public gatherings and business can be eased. More than $1 billion has made its way to state health care facilities since April to offset the cost of restricting elective procedures and caring for a high number of coronavirus patients. The largest chunk of the payouts, part of relief aid from the Federal CARES Act, went to 16 hospitals in Greater New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. There's a slight uptick to air travel across the state after historic hits to business because of the pandemic. In April, business at Baton Rouge Metro was off 95% compared to the previous year. TSA estimates say May figures are down 64% at BTR compared to a staggering 77% at Armstrong International in New Orleans. More than 1,800 students have remained living on university campuses around the state, even though they've been taking classes online. An LSU spokesperson says some have nowhere else to go or it's unsafe to return to their home country. The numbers range from 650 at LSU to 310 at Louisiana Tech to about 50 or 60 at Tulane's Uptown campus. Louisiana is now treating some COVID-19 patients with remdesivir, the only drug approved to treat the virus. Governor Edwards says the drug is being sent to nearly 4 dozen hospitals that have at least 5 patients infected. He says the first shipment was May 14. A landmark restaurant overlooking False River in New Roads is up for sale and won't reopen because of coronavirus business losses and uncertainty. Satterfield's Upper Deck restaurant is on the market. The downstairs landing bar is expected to continue in business with the limited normal capacity. The historic Satterfield's was built in 1917 as Satterfield's Motors. It closed its doors April 30th. The governor this week ordered flags to be flown at half-staff at the state capitol and public buildings until sunset Thursday to honor fallen state police trooper George Baker. Baker died Sunday from injuries sustained in the line of duty. State police are calling Baker's decision to donate his organs a last act of selfless service. George Baker was 33. Also in the headlines, the State Board of Regents announcing Thursday that college and university students could return to campus in the fall if they follow guidelines of public health officials.
And a judge ruled in favor of the governor over State Treasurer John Schroeder in the lawsuit about the transfer of excess unclaimed property funds. Schroeder tried to withhold the money from the state general fund, but the judge ruled it must be returned immediately. It's more than $32 million.
They juggle SNAP benefits, the welfare of children and families, and much more. Their plate has been extra full during the pandemic. This week, I checked in with DCFS Secretary Marketa Garner-Walters.
What kind of impact has COVID-19 had on your agency and on your work?
You know, Andre, we always have a big role in emergency response, and this year has been no different. But it's been a different kind of response. Normally, when there's a disaster, we open big shelters, and that's not what we did with this. But as we were trying to get people out of New Orleans that needed a safe place to go and had no home to go to if they tested positive, we opened state parks. We opened Bayou Signet, which is down near New Orleans. We opened Chico State Park, and then Lake Bistineau up in North Louisiana.
As you look at it, what are your concerns about child welfare and children in homes right now?
Well, you know, our child abuse reports have dropped to half. We know child abuse has not dropped to half. So we're really worried about what's going to, you know, the kids normally have a safety net around them and their teachers and their coaches and going to the doctor's office or the dentist's office or just being in the neighborhood where you're seeing lots of neighbors and family.
At the moment, there's no real way for you to put your eyes on these children, is there?
No, there's really not. There's, you know, we're not an intrusive organization in that we just don't go knocking on your door to see if you're treating your kids right. You know, we come in when there's an allegation of abuse.
You mentioned that the child abuse cases, you haven't had as many reports of that.
Correct.
From what I understand, the reports of domestic abuse has been really escalating.
That is true, and we know where there's domestic abuse, there is often child abuse. If nothing else, if it's not physical abuse, it's the mental and emotional abuse that a child goes through in watching one parent batter another. And so we know that is happening, and that is increasing the anxiety level that we have about what's happening with our kids.
Marketa, thank you so much from Child and Family Services. You do a great job. I know your heart's so much in it. And that genuineness and that care really comes through.
Thank you. It's always a joy, Andre. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to us.
They've been open, but mostly empty during the pandemic, absorbing a huge financial blow. So what's the outlook for hotels around the state? I talked with two of the state's hotel leaders.
We're starting to see signs of life as the state has opened.
Ben Blackwell heads up the State Hotel and Lodging Association, and he's a general manager of two downtown Baton Rouge hotels, a Courtyard by Marriott and Hampton Inn and Suites. Though hotels are considered essential and have never closed since the first days of COVID-19, they have largely been empty and are only now beginning to see some guests return.
We thrive on hospitality, and when you don't have those guests to give your all to, it's a little difficult. But all in all, we've been through this before, after Katrina, after 9/11, maybe not to this extent, but it's nowhere that we haven't been before, and we know how to bounce back from it.
We've always been there to help people out.
Scott Michelet is general manager of the Crown Plaza in Baton Rouge and president of the Baton Rouge Lodging Association. He says what makes this disaster so different is the lockdown meant people were not around to help out.
There's just no one traveling right now. We've gone from a very good occupancy that we had in March to almost null and void currently. We may be in the 20 to 30% as an industry as a whole, but it really is devastating what's happened to our industry.
What is your forecast?
Some forecast says 2021 will be better for us and we'll pick up. We're still waiting to see what the mandates are, what comes out June 1, what is allowed, what's not allowed. We have seen a little bit of bump in people traveling on the weekends with the first phase one. We're starting to have some tournaments of sorts like that we've seen a few ball teams show up on the weekends. But until we know what phase two is, phase three, it's going to be difficult for us to really forecast out until we know what those restrictions will be or will not be.
What's the number of people working now, percentage-wise, say, compared to before this event happened?
Most hotels at skeleton crews right now. Some people are bringing back, but for instance, we were at 150 at one time and we're at 30. It's just, and 30 is with us bringing people back, not necessarily because of business, but with the money that we've been able to get from the small business.
What hurts the most for you?
Honestly, it really is it's missing our guests. That's what we thrive on.
If you're in this business, it's a passion. It's not a job, it's a career. And you take it to heart every time it gets hit, not only for the industry, but for your employees. Our employees have been hit. And as long as these mandates and restrictions are in place, we can't get our family back together. The rug's been pulled from underneath our feet, and we got to rebound. We're a strong industry. We can endure a lot. We'll be back, but we just don't know when.
And once again, hotels are just one of many businesses anxious about moving into the next phases.
She's a busy working mother of three and wife who, with the help of her family, was able to set a goal way out of her comfort zone. Unable to compete in her normal triathlons because of shelter-in-place orders, she took to the road and ran 681 miles or 26 marathons in 26 days to raise money for a good cause.
Rachel Gilson says it was a calling.
For a long time, I just felt like I could really push myself to do more than I'd ever kind of expected or other people even expect. And so it would start off as a whisper, and then it got a little bit louder and louder. And then for some reason, for like the last year, it's just been yelling at me. And it's just this itch you got to scratch. And I never knew what it looked like. I never knew what it was going to be.
Gilson, a triathlete, has been training for several events this year. All were canceled because of COVID-19 and shelter-in-place orders. She says she knew whatever she did would have to be something pretty out there, able to grab people's attention and make them want to be a part of it.
something just clicked over the last month and a half or so. And I just said, well, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to run 26 marathons in 26 days and do some good in the process.
Rachel Run 681, as in miles, was born. Her plan carried out with lots of family support and structure. Her day usually beginning feet on the floor at 3:30 a.m.
Everything had to be laid out ahead of time. Because if you miss one thing and it gives you an excuse not to do it, then that's not going to cut it. So yeah, it takes some organization and some planning. And yeah, you get tired and necessarily don't want to be running your 26th mile at 9:30 at night, but knowing that it had something behind it, that there was going to be an end for all of it, and it was all going to serve a purpose. It just helped push you through.
Day after day, mile after mile, Jilson knew putting one foot in front of the other was helping a cause she really believed in. Front Yard Bikes, a nonprofit that teaches children how to fix bikes, welding, and an abundance of life skills that can lead to earning their own two wheels. Her efforts helping to pay for summer jobs and summer toolkits. Front Yard's normal activities were shuttered, but they quickly shifted gears to help others during the pandemic.
They'd been on my radar before. I followed them on Facebook a bit. I looked into it a little bit more and kind of saw what they were doing during the shelter-in-place orders with delivering meals and laptops and such to the kids and to others in the community that could not get out. I called Dustin Lafont, the founder, and we spoke. And once he told me, and I heard him speak with such passion about what the mission at Front Yard Bikes is and what they were doing not only on a day-to-day basis, but in the recent changes with the shelter in place, I just knew exactly who could really use a help.
And as she used her social media pages to update her plan, progress, and daily routine, it caught on. Support and donations pouring in. Her goal surpassed.
Oh, it's been a bit overwhelming because I just didn't quite expect all of that. You know, I figured, you know, your friends and your family are automatically going to share your page and throw a little money towards what you're doing if it's for a good cause. But it really did gain some steam over the 26 days, and we were able to reach out to a whole community of people that I've never met, which gives me the opportunity to make new friends and meet new people. We've raised a little over $7,000 through the charity GoFundMe. So we've overshot the $5,000 goal a bit, which I'm very happy for.
And she says nothing was sweeter than that final mile and the accomplishment that came with it.
It was the best mile of the 681 miles, that's for sure. You know, every little ache and pain that had developed over the course of 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks or so, disappeared. Turning that corner and seeing Dustin there and seeing my family there and some friends, and they even put in a cute little finish line tape for me. I mean, that really means a lot.
Jilson, obviously a gifted athlete, but tells me she had never run a full marathon until she ran 26 of them. She's run several half marathons and competed in a dozen triathlons, but the marathon was something that scared her a little, but obviously not anymore. Now, if you'd like to help her and donate to her cause, just head over to the GoFundMe page that you see on your screen. The founder of Front Yard Bike says it started in his front yard. Student after student after student asking for help fixing their bikes. The rest is history. But the Capital City nonprofit after-school program has expanded into so much more than a bike shop. Dustin Lafont says they are peddling valuable life skills, too.
It was 10 years ago, and it started with just one child and his two wheels.
I thought that would be a one-time scenario where a neighbor just needed help with something. And the next day he brought his brother and sister and then a couple more friends. And, you know, before too long, there's about 15 kids in my yard all working on bikes with my one toolbox.
Dustin Lafont, a Houma, Louisiana native and LSU grad, says all that positive energy and curiosity got him thinking, how could he make a difference? How could he invest in his South Baton Rouge community?
And we have made small baby steps along the way to get to be a youth workforce development and community bike shop that now boasts a lot of wonderful, wonderful kids.
So during this 10 years, how many kids have come through your program?
I think we can backlog maybe over 1,000 kids have come through and learned with tools and doing mechanics. We know last year we had over 400 kids. We're now getting to the point where we're doing certifications in bike mechanics and welding. So you can get those first time certifications to build upon your career. And we hire 20 kids a year to be interns, specifically high schoolers. We expanded to buy a business that's a regular bike shop for services and sales, and we get some of our students to go work there full time.
Lafont says they also rely heavily on grants and generous donors like Rachel Gilson and her marathon challenge to keep their doors open.
We have donors in Baton Rouge that donate their bikes, they donate their time, they donate, snacks for the kids to, bike locks and lights and helmets.
So how do you go about the process of helping these kids take it to the next level?
Well, a lot of students will come to our facility for the first time, and their first thing they want to do, for the most part, is earn a bike. They want to get a bike to have for their own transportation, recreation, any number of things. So after they register in the front, they pick out the bike in the back behind me, and they say, which one they want the most. And we start to look at, well, how many service hours do you need to fix that? And we do evaluation from anywhere from 3 to 8 hours of volunteer time is needed. And we do a price match where if the bike is, say, $30, well, $5 an hour to get to that 30 is going to be 6 hours. So it's going to take you that amount of time. So getting to learn fiscal literacy.
And
they got to be the mechanic for the most part. And the bikes that need the least amount of work, well, you're going to have to help us in the garden or the kitchen or with maintenance or with, beautification or even doing tutoring and homework. We'll count all that time.
But when the pandemic struck, the Front Yard After School program was shuttered, but Lafont's wheels kept turning. They shifted into high gear and pedaled forward, helping those in need.
We still want to get food out to our families who get a snack from us after school or something healthy to eat after school or, get that school meal. So we evolved to say, let's, go grab this food. We'll bike the food that is the closest because our kids will know who we are. And in the long distance, we'll get our vehicle and our van that we have, and we'll transport that long distance. And we'll keep up with the students to find out what they need and what's going on with their virtual learning or their social distance learning, and try to supply activities for kids who really aren't maybe getting enough to do.
So as you can tell, Front Yard Bikes are staying very busy even during this pandemic. For more information about getting involved or donating to help them with their mission, reach out to Dustin at frontyardbikes@gmail.com.
The governor joined mayors and faith leaders from Together Louisiana and more than 1,000 others across the state this past Tuesday. They gathered on Zoom and Facebook to launch a campaign to reimagine the state as it emerges from COVID-19.
This is not about dreaming. This is not about fantasy. This is about looking at our world, looking at our cities and our state, and revisioning based on what we know, what we see every day, what our lives could be like. Imagination, reimagining, is about visioning for the future, but rooted in reality.
People complain that powerful corporations and lobbying institutions have outsized influence on decision-making in the state of Louisiana. But the reality is that these institutions are just pursuing their interests. It becomes a problem when there's no balance, when the pursuit of their interests so dominates that it begins to harm the interests of the everyday Louisianan. So here is the premise of Together Louisiana and its member organizations, that there is great potential, maybe unparalleled potential, for citizens to affect public decision-making when we systematically bring these institutions together into relationships.
What role do you see Together Louisiana playing, and what role would you challenge us to play to help make it possible for you to achieve far-reaching change in your second term? Finally, let me ask you, can we look forward to getting together more often, maybe quarterly, around these 10,000 questions?
Well, the second answer, because it's so easy, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I don't believe I have ever shied away from Together Louisiana or resisted an invitation to join you. This, this is a new venue for that, but certainly we'll continue to do that, and I'll engage with you all. What I would ask Together Louisiana to do is to continue to put your faith, your love for our state and for one another and for everybody in Louisiana into action, so that we can have a better state, a stronger state, one that is fairer, one that is more equitable.
Many of our people here who provided hospitality services to over 18 million visitors that will come to our city annually. And of course, to the people who live here, right? But when I think about in this story of these many individuals who will be in some ways permanently displaced from employment due to the collapse of our industry and the need, right, for it to take some time to come back to the 18 million visitors that we have benefited from. So I think about them, and as I think also about reimagining Louisiana, it's providing real opportunities for our hospitality workers to be transitioned into other growth sectors or industries that are here in the city and are growing. This is a time to diversify.
The campaign will consist of several hundred small group online gatherings held over Zoom throughout June and July. You can visit togetherla.org if you want to join in. And everyone, that is our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB Anywhere app.
The download is free from your app store. You can catch LPB news, public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs that you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For everyone here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Mora.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.